Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. Last year, Detroit Mayor and NBA legend Dave Bing launched a mentoring initiative aimed at supporting and enhancing the lives of young men of color. The program is called BINGO, which stands for Boys Inspired Through Nurturing, Growth, and Opportunities. The young men are matched up with successful male role models from a variety of professions, and in addition to receiving that one-on-one mentoring, they take part in social and emotional learning sessions, and they attend regular educational and social outings. The BINGO program is a part of the larger Bing Youth Institute, which brings together community partners to help young men of color become successful and productive citizens. Joining me now is the founder, Dave Bing. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Good to see you. Good to be with you.
You have not been here since you were a mayor, so
well, I'm working.
You seem more relaxed.
Much
I'm
more.
Shocked by that, right?
Much more.
I remember when you started this program and talked about when you left office that this is what you really wanted to do with your time. This was the way you wanted to continue to make a contribution to our community. A year in, tell me how it's going and what you've learned.
Well, it's going wonderful. We started the program in November of last year, so we're approaching the end of our first year.
Yeah.
We have roughly 56 boys, 7th, 8th, and 9th graders into the program. And my biggest problem and concern was whether or not I was going to be able to get men of color to commit.
To help, yeah.
To commit, because that is the key. I was concerned about that, and now we have over 60 males of color that are matched up one-on-one with our boys. And we have 100% retention, the boys and the men, going into our second year.
Wow, wow. And so talk about what they do together. What do these one-on-one sessions look like, and why do you think that's making a difference?
Well, one of the statistics that we found out in our research that 70% of the boys in the program had never been to downtown Detroit.
Is that right?
They
live in the city.
They live in the city. They know their neighborhood. They know their school.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Wow.
So they never had an opportunity to see what was happening around the city that they live in.
Yeah. You talk about the gap between what's going on in downtown and midtown and the neighborhoods. There it is right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we try to make sure, we've taken the kids to the Historical Black Museum. We've taken the kids out at in Dearborn so that they could see what was going out there at Ford Motor Company. We've taken the kids out to Auburn Hills. We've taken the kids to the Lear Corporation so that they can see how business is run. And so we're trying to open their minds up to think that they can be successful. So we're giving them, I think, the love that's necessary, giving them the guidance and what have you, that they're not getting at home in a lot of cases.
Sure.
It's unfortunate that so many of the homes right now are headed by women. And I applaud them for what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's time for men to really stand up and say, we've got to take this on and help solve the problem.
Yeah. You said you were worried about getting males to commit to this. How did you do that? What turned the corner in terms of people saying, all right, I can do this?
Well, most of the companies that I went to get funding to help us run the program, my strategy was, at the top of the house, ask, can I meet some of the black men in your organization?
Yeah.
So I can tell them exactly what we're doing and what would be expected of them to participate in the program. Yeah. And fortunately, everybody has come on board. There's never going to be enough of us because the need is so great.
Sure. Sure.
But I'm pleased and pleasantly surprised that so many quality black men have come to the table and say, I can do this, I'll help.
Yeah. I remember when the young man from Cass Tech, the football player, J. Rue Campbell, got into trouble. A lot of people don't know that you were one of the people who sort of stepped in and said, well, okay, this was a bad thing that happened, but let's see what we can do to turn things around. That turns out to be a pretty good story, too.
Yeah, it's so easy to quit on these young men. I didn't want to do that,
yeah.
And I went to him. I had never been to the jail in downtown Detroit until I met him.
Is that right?
But, we brought him on in our organization and used him as a teen role model, if you will. And he worked with us. We worked closely with him. We've got him now. He has graduated. He has a diploma from high school.
Yeah.
He is now a freshman out at Garden City, which is a junior college in Kansas. and he's performing well.
He's playing.
First game, he had 4 TDs.
Wow.
So he's doing very well, and I think by the end of his freshman year, I think there are a lot of Division I schools will start to look at him again.
Right. So, I mean, this is a young man who went from the absolute bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at getting kicked out of school, maybe spending some time in jail, and now he's in college. I mean, that's sort of the power of that intervention at the right time.
Absolutely, and we've got to continue to do that. And so once again, I'm pleased that so many men are coming to the table. We're getting ready to expand. Our growth is unbelievable because the need is so great. But anybody who is interested in helping us to be a mentor, our door's going to be wide open.
Yeah. When you look at this program sort of going forward, you talked about expansion. Are there other things that you're planning? Are there other things you need? What will grow this so that it's 560 kids in the city instead of 56?
Well, the real key is getting the mentors to commit. If you don't have a mentor, and I'm strictly one-on-one, I don't believe in group mentoring. You got to develop a relationship with the kid, and it's based on a continuity of being there, talking to that kid, and listening, understanding what problems they have. I mean, all of us want to think we know how to be successful, and so we want to tell the kids about our success.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. Listen to the kid, see where he's coming from, and then you may be able to help him. And so the key is getting the mentors to commit. That's the key.
Yeah. This is a city, as we've said, that has thousands of kids in this kind of situation, in need of this kind of work. What do you hear from the kids, though, when they tell you about their lives, when they tell you about Detroit? I'm really curious always about how young people experience and see what's going on around us every day in this city.
Well, a lot of them have given up. They don't have hope because they don't see a future for themselves. I mean, I spoke to a lot of different kids in high school, even in middle school, and a lot of them will say, why do I need an education? Because I'm not going to be offered a good job. I'm not going to have that opportunity. I don't think I'm going to live very long, so I'm going to live fast and I'm going to do what I want to do. And, that's a hard thing to swallow for me as a 71-year-old guy that's gone through the same situation that they may have at their young age. But we got to talk to them and let them know that there is hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel. And it revolves around your fundamentals, and that's education. You got to get an education. But a lot of these kids will say, I can sell dope and make more money than getting a college education.
They're not wrong, right?
And some of that is really true. But I'm saying, the end result of that is either jail or death in most cases. So if you want to live for a while and enjoy yourself, get a good education, keep your nose clean, and we can help you out. There are enough of us out here that can keep you on the right track. But jobs is going to be key. Yeah. If you can't give a kid a job to keep him out of trouble, then you've got a real problem that you're confronted with.
Yeah, and we're working on that a little in the city with the summer jobs program, but it's also about jobs as an adult. Being able to provide for your family, make a living.
Yeah. No doubt about it. I mean, you can't have everybody flipping hamburgers, and that's not a negative, but that's a starting point for a lot of people. Right. But what we try to get into these kids' heads is that you're not going to be able to get a decent job to take care of a family without an education. Very difficult. I mean, we have automotive capital, et cetera, et cetera. Years ago, you didn't have to have a great education. You could go and get a great job. That's not the case anymore. So it's about preparation, letting kids know how important education is.
I want to change the subject briefly back to when you were mayor. There's a familiar theme showing up in the news these days about the current mayor, Mike Duggan, and his efforts to build on what you did in terms of demolition. He's having a hard time of it. He's spending more money. The numbers are down in terms of the numbers of houses that they're taking down. I'm curious as to how you see that, given how many times did we talk about how demolition was going and how hard that was? The
demolition is very difficult, no doubt about it. In the last 3 years of my term, we tore down a little over 10,000 homes. Right. We got our money from the federal government. The Obama administration was very, very supportive. And I had a staff of people that were committed, and they did a really nice job. But tearing down 10,000 when you got 80,000 that needs to be torn down,
Sure.
you know, it's just a, you know, it doesn't make a lot of difference.
Right.
Unless you're in that neighborhood, unless
Right.
you're next door to
Right.
somebody.
Yeah.
But we started off, it was costing us about $10,000 per home to demolish, and we got that number down to about 8,500.
Right.
So it's
So they're at 16,000.
yeah, and I don't know why either. I mean,
yeah.
when you start looking at line items in terms of, okay, it costs our administration 10, we get all of the documentation in the world, what's driving the increase?
Right. Right.
And so I think the public and the media has a right to know what's driving it. So if you're going to be open and honest, let everybody know exactly what's going on, because you're not going to get much more money from the federal government. So
Right.
whatever you're getting, you got to stretch it and be very, very efficient.
Right. One thing that I'm always curious about is how much the new mayor, when they get elected and get into office, goes back to the old mayor who had the same set of problems and was dealing with them. How much do they go and say, hey, how did this work? How should I do this? Did Mike Duggan do that? Did he reach out to you and say, this was something that worked under your administration, I just want to build on it?
I did it the opposite way. All the data that we had put together, I gave it to Mike.
You passed it forward.
I passed it on to him. Actually, not only to Mike, but I passed it on to Kevin Orr before Mike.
Okay.
As
The
our
emergency manager, right.
And so they knew everything that we were doing, all the plans that we had, and so they knew about that. Now, whether or not they wanted to use that or do something different is another story.
Yeah.
But had Mike and his administration continued on and improved upon what we put in place, I don't think we would see the rise in pricing right now.
Yeah, well, and pricing is one thing, but also there's an issue about who they're using to do the work, you know, including Detroiters as much as you can. That seems to have fallen by the wayside.
I had 13 demolition contractors that I used in my administration. 8 of them were minority, 5 of them were Detroit-based. Most of them were small companies, small to medium-sized companies. And this is work that will go on for the next 5 or 10 years.
Right.
So if you help them build capacity over time, not only will their companies grow, they'll be able to employ more people, hopefully from the city of Detroit,
yeah.
and create some jobs. And I think that's what's important. Our city is not going to come back and do well unless people got an opportunity to get a good job and make money.
Yeah, yeah. You know, when you talk about demolition, it's all about the numbers. How many houses can you take down? Did you feel pressure to sort of rush through it to make sure that, look, we just got to get them down, and maybe we cut some corners if we have to, but to keep the numbers high? I mean, is that maybe what the current mayor is feeling?
He may be doing that, and we didn't do that. We tried to be strategic in our approach, because there were some places around the city where there were 2 or 3 houses that were neglected and needed to come down in a good neighborhood. So we couldn't afford to leave those homes up. We had to go down and either rehab them or tear them down. So you had to have a strategy in terms, and if you're trying to rush through it, you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
If you're just driving to get numbers so it makes you look good, that's not the right approach, in my opinion. I mean, there are places in our city that won't change over the next 10 or 20 years.
Sure.
So let's concentrate on the areas where you can make an impact, where you can make a positive difference, and that's what we tried to do.
Yeah. Okay. Dave Bing, former mayor of the city of Detroit. Do you miss it?
Not that office. No, I don't. But I'm happy doing what I'm doing, because I do think I can make a major difference in the lives of a lot of young men.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, and good luck with the program.
Thank you.
Yeah.